Minash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. My name is Muskan Zulfikar, and today my presentation topic is English as a global language. First of all, I want to know you that you people know that what is language and why we use different languages for communications in the different areas. So language is the primary medium. We know that English is now a global language. But what is language? First of all, we understand the meaning of the language, that for which purpose we use the language, or we use it for which purpose. So language is the primary medium of human social interaction. And interaction, it means through which social relations are constructed and maintained. It is a vital commodity in a globalized world. It means that every people needs and uses language as a means to communicate to each other. People need language to express their needs in many aspects of life. So at the community of the world, people need language. All the people who are living in the country or in the world, they need some language, or they need a language to communicate to the people, because if they don't know the language, or they don't have the language, so how they communicate or how they convey their message to other. So language is the primary medium of human social interaction. Communication, in this sense, our group will present the topic about English as an international and as a global language. Now English become a world language because people, I just want to tell you that English now becomes a world language because people in other countries, as I told you, in other countries gives a special credence to English even though they do not speak it as a first language. Special status given to English by the other countries can be in the form of using English as a second language, SL, and English as a foreign language, AFL. Different courses are available also in the Pakistan that do for the English language. Now, in my this presentations, I just want to tell you that what is international or a global language, and why do we need international or global language? Why English become an international or a global language, and what are the implications of English as an international or a global language in English language teaching? So, what is international or global language? Now, the international or global language, both are the same. The international, global, both are the same. According to Smith, 1976, as cited by Sandroli McKay, defines as international language as the language which is used by people of different nations to communicate with one another. International language are a language through which different peoples are communicated. For example, if I take an example of Pakistani people when they migrated to England, so they use the English language. If some people is migrated to UK from India or from France, from every country, so through which they are they become to communicate each other through through which through communication or through the language they migrate. So as I told you that what makes English as a global language. So David Crystal in 2003 in English as a global language, given some ideas on what a global language is, he stated that a language achieves a genuinely global status when it develops a special role that is recognized in every country. Such a role will be most evident in countries where large numbers of the people speak that language as a mother tongue. He also stated that to achieve a global status, a language has to be taken up by other countries around the world. They must decide to give it a special place within their communities, even though they may have few or no mother tongue speakers. So, why is English called the global and the universal language? Despite other language having more speakers, or English is the universal language. This is because at one time the British Empire had great influence over the world, which make English as a global language. Thus the language spread throughout many continents. By looking at the pros and cons, we can understand the impact of the language on the world. Now, the two ways in which a language can be made the official language of a country. First, it is used as a medium of communication in such domains as government, the law court, the media, and the educational system to get on these society. It is essential to master the official language as early in life as possible, such as English is often described as a second language because it is seen a complement to a person's mother tongue or first language. This was the first reason, which this was the two waves which language can be made the official language of a country. Now the second reason is a language can be made a priority in a country foreign language teaching. Even though this language has no official status, it becomes the language which children are most likely to be taught then when they arrive in schools. Was English always the global language? The question arises. Was English always the global language? So it was only during the 20th century that English started overtaking French, and before long, English was the most widely spoken and written language that has ever existed. Yep, English is the world's first global lingua franca. You people know that what is lingua franca. Why do we need an international or a global language? Why we do need? There are some reasons, such as, according to Crystal, that thousands of years ago, translation played a central role in human interactions. When ambassadors met to the international stage, where would be interpret. For example, I'm giving you my own example. If the Chinese ambassador came to Pakistan, and he just communicate with our president in Chinese language, so he didn't speak that very language. He didn't understand, but he understand the English language because English is now the global language and it is understandable in every country or in every continent. So it was the first reason that English is a needed language now. Interpreters present in this way, a misunderstanding will appear because of so many languages used in the community. As a global community, people around the world will always keep in contact in international forum to political, economical, educational, and many other international affairs, and even in private business. Another example is in with communities began to trade with each other. We know that the pidgin, we know pidgin for a language which we use for trading with different countries or different people, which combines elements of their different languages. Okay, the question arises that what is global English also called? So the global English, also called international English, is the concept of the English language as a global means of communications in the numerous dialect and the movement towards an international standard for the language. It is also referred as a Google global language, world language or world English, common English, general English, or standard English. Now, the why English become an international or global language? Okay, and what are the advantages of spread the English as a global language? So first, a brief history of English language: that Old English, Middle English, and Modern English. We know that what is Old English, Middle English, and Modern English, but I'm just giving you the very brief introductions that from 450 to 1100 AD, the invading Germanic tribes spoke similar language, which is Britain developed into what we now call Old English. Old English didn't sound or look like English today. Native English speakers now would have great difficulty understanding Old English. Nevertheless, about half of the most commonly used words in modern English have Old English roots. The words be strong and water, for example, derived from Old English. Old English was spoken until around 1100. Now the Middle English, from 1100 to 1500. In 1066, William the Conqueror, the Duke of Normandy, part of the modern France, Duke of Normandy, invaded the conquered England. The new conquerors, called the Normans, brought with them a kind of French, which became the language of the royal court and the ruling and business classes for a period. There was a kind of linguistic class division, where the lower classes spoke English and the upper classes spoke French. This the lower where the lower classes spoke English and the upper classes spoke French. So it shows that how much French was the language which which they give importance. But now if we see today that English overlap, English became the most prominent language in all over the world. So this also make the difference, or the theory, the Marxism or the capitalism. In the 14th century, English became dominant in Britain again, but with many French words added. This language is called Middle English. It was the language of the great poet Chaucer. He was one of the great poet Chaucer, 1340 to 1400, but it would still be difficult for native English speakers to understand today. Now, the modern English, early modern English, and late modern English till present. So, the modern English is early modern English, 1500 to 18. Towards the end of the Middle English, a sudden and distinct change in pronunciation. The great vowel shift started with vowels being pronounced shorter and shorter. From the 16th century, the British had contact with many people from around the world. This and the Renaissance classical learning mean that many new words and phrases entered the language. The invention of printing also meant that there was now a common language. In print, books became cheaper and more people learned to read. Printing also brought standardization to English. Spelling and grammar became fixed in the dialect of the London, where publishing houses were, became the standard. In 1604, the first English dictionary was published. Now, the late modern till present, the main difference between early modern English and late modern English is vocabulary. Late modern English has many more words arising from the two principal factors. Firstly, the industrial revolutions and technology created a need for new words. Secondly, the British Empire at its height covered one quarter of the earth's surface, and the English language adopted foreign words from many countries. Now, the advantages of the spread of English as a global language. So, first of all, I'm telling you the advantages, and then I come back to my presentation. That one of the key advantage of integrating English as a global language is that it bridges to communications gap between countries, uniting individuals from all ethnicities, cultural background, and races worldwide. As a result, people can access a broader cultural environment. This was one of the best advantages of English as a global language. Who said that English is a universal language? Who said that English is a universal language? So, the Marquardt, one of the staunchest proponents of English as a world auxiliary language, has to say there is one language which has already beginning to suffuse the world well before Descartes first posed the desirability of universal language. This is of course English. The reasons why English become a global language or international language is not only deals with how many people speak it, but more deals with who those speakers are. A language has traditionally become an international language for one chief reason: the power of its people, the many aspects, especially economical, technological, political, and military power. If we see that, if we see the before 14th century, or if we see that the era of the Chaucer, so English was not considered as the best language or as the needed language. But the revolution after the world wars, the industrial revolution or the economical revolution, they are the technological, the political background. If they have the US, now the US is a superpowered country, so English is as their native language. And because of their economy, because of their technological development, because of their political stability, because of their military power, English became the world global language. From the first time the US entered the first world war in 1917 right through the present, the US has been one of the major military power in the world. The economic and military has forced the traders and soldiers had to learn English to do their job properly, because industry explorations and military demands needed and contributed to learning. So a lot of scientific discourse carried out primarily in English. The combinations of industry, trade war, and learning all of which are English has put English in its position as world's preeminent language. The war between UK and France.